And also, I'm in a unique position where I go to dozens and dozens of rare disease conferences for different diseases with families, and we've got the best one. We've got the best one. And I'm very excited to introduce you to another one of our amazing leaders. And I do have to confess, I called her every day for about 6 months and forced her to become our president. She did not want to. She didn't feel like she was smart enough. She didn't feel like she was good enough. She had imposter syndrome. But what she has is beautiful softness and no ego. And she cares about the families before she makes any decision. And she has learned that she actually does have a badass in her little butterfly personality. And I've watched her grow over the last couple years. And also, like Spiela, I'm sure she doesn't sleep because she studies and she studies and she studies. And she has been a really big part of bringing us together with all of our orgs around the world. And we're still working on that to make it as beautiful and cohesive as possible. And I'm so proud to introduce Emily Amerson, the president of CT and MB1 Connect and Cure in the USA.
Thank you so much. And I have my tissue because, wow, it's unbelievable to watch what has happened. So first, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm so grateful to be here. And just to start off, do I do it? So while they're doing that, I am going to be talking a little bit about the US organization, but the main message is connection and why it's so important that we're all connected. And that's something that we're working on building even stronger. Here we go. Yay, okay. So after that, I'd like us to really connect here right now. And I'm gonna ask you to raise your hand if you have met someone because of CTNMB1 who lives in a different city or country than you. Keep your hand up and look around the room. This is connection, and connection is so powerful. Okay, so for the science nerds in the room, we have on the screen, this is a single neuron firing, a beautiful piece of our biology, but it doesn't do anything unless it's connected in a neuronal network. We are the neuronal network. We can each fire individually, but we're not gonna really make an impact for all of our kids unless we're connected and firing together. So brief history of me as a person, Effie alluded to this. When I first got my daughter's diagnosis, I went directly into learner mode. And she is absolutely right. I've pretty much been in learner mode my whole life. I study, I don't stop studying, I learn everything. I remember looking up CTNNB1, I read every single publication about the disorder within probably the first 2 weeks after diagnosis. I joined the Facebook group. I read 6 years of comments from parents in about probably a month. And I demanded referrals to the specialists to look at the symptoms that other parents were seeing in their children. And even before the diagnosis, I remember going to therapy sessions with my child, taking notes, teaching my husband, teaching my parents, this is what's gonna help Savannah's development. So, learner mode through and through. And I was really just after looking for what was gonna make Savannah's development the best it could possibly be. But I was in a bubble, right? I was thinking about my child. I was thinking about what knowledge can I bring to her life? And so my talk today is really about how that initial learning didn't make an impact until I was connected. So all of that work didn't really do anything for CTNMB1 until I was connected in our beautiful community. So I'm now in the neuronal network. Okay, so I'll be talking a little bit about the connect in CTNMB1 Connect and Cure. It's actually pretty similar to your slides with the global network. And then I have a charge for everyone in the room, one for individuals and one for us CTNMB1 organizations around the world. So first, CTNNB1 Connect and Cure. Why is Connect in our name? It's in everything we do. A brief history of where we started. As we heard at last year's conference, the disorder was first discovered in 2012. After that, some of you might be in this room, it started popping up on genetic reports. What are these letters? And so when the doctor hands you your report and the parent says, what is this? And the doctor goes like this, where do you go? You go online and you connect with other families. And so that's what happened with our community. We built a beautiful community on Facebook. If you're not part of that group, you should join because it's where you learn everything. Okay, from there, the first organization for CTNNB1 was formed, CTNNB1 Syndrome Awareness Worldwide in 2017. 2 years later, Advancing CTNNB1 Cures and Treatments was formed to focus on research. And also during this time, other organizations around the world were formed, and we started making big impact around the world. But specifically, as the two US organizations started working closer and closer together, they realized something really important: the power of connection. And so they merged into what is now known as CTNNB1 Connect and Cure. And so just briefly, the three focus areas of the organization is support, clinical trial readiness, and treatments. First, support. And I'm going to show some pictures just to support what I'm saying. But community is really important, and so we arrange local meetups and conferences in the US. We have some support groups that are actually virtual, available for anyone. So the first one is our SIB shops for siblings of those with CTNNB1 syndrome. And we also recently, this last fall, started a caregiver support group. So you can log in. It's actually run by a CTNNB1 mom who's a licensed therapist. We have a lot of resources on our website, including a newly diagnosed page, all of the publications about CTNNB1 listed in order of year, and then some printable brochures and flyers. The most recent one is our tethered cord in CTNNB1 syndrome. You can print it out, take it to your doctor, say, give my child an MRI. Okay, and then awareness. We all know we are very rare. We all know how important awareness is. So we also work really hard to provide materials to make that easy for families to go out and tell their communities. So we have our Facebook frames, and then we also have some merchandise you can wear and spark questions with others. And then advocacy. As Shpila mentioned, this world isn't really built for rare disease development. And so we participate in a lot of advocacy letters to high impact stakeholders, including President Trump. This is a letter that we signed onto to President Trump earlier this year, talking about rare disease in the FDA in those guidelines. Okay, and then next, clinical trial readiness. This is, it's not the sexy part of drug development, but it's crucial to bring treatments to our children. Mechanism of the disease. We have Dr. Michelle Jacob, who will be speaking later, who helped really understanding how beta-catenin impacts biologically and how that manifests in our children's phenotypes. We also have a patient registry to understand where our patients are and who they are. And it's important for our families all around the world to be part of this registry so we can plan international clinical trials. The natural history study. So the one in the US is run out of Boston Children's Hospital, started in 2023. And it is similar. It's just looking at children over time. Spila did a good job of explaining this, where we need to know the baseline to know how a treatment is affecting our children. And then a mouse model. So the mouse is whole body heterozygous for CTNNB1, and it actually depicts the disease both biologically and phenotypically, which is really important for testing the treatments as well. And then a mouse is not a human, right? So we have patient-derived cell models from actual CTNNB1 patients, and those can be made into neurons, which is, the cells that we're trying to target with these treatments. We have 9 currently available, I believe, and one more coming very soon. And then the biorepository. So that not only feeds into making patient-derived cell models, but we also use that for biomarker studies and tracking disease in more real time in our patients. Really important to know, we are now collecting cerebral spinal fluid for the biorepository, which is the gold standard for neurodevelopmental disease. It is showing the proteins that are actually interacting with the brain. And so if your child is planned to have a tethered cord surgery anytime in the next 6 months to a year, please reach out to me or Spila, and we can figure out how to use, they would discard the cerebral spinal fluid otherwise, and we can ask that they collect that and put it in our biorepository. And then, yes, biomarkers is what we gather from the biorepository studies, so we can see the different proteins and really see the biology that's happening in real time. This is really exciting. So we officially last year received approval of the ICD-10 code for CTNB1 syndrome. So it's now a disease that is recognized around the world officially, which is really important for identifying patients, insurance coverage, and really fast tracking to clinical trials. It's an important piece there. And disease concept model, this was finished this spring. And I didn't mention, we will have a conference in October in Boston, but the results from the disease concept model will be presented there. And we'll also be launching a patient priority survey at the same time, and both of those together will go in our package when we start engaging with the regulators. Okay, treatments. So we, knowing Spila is working so hard on gene therapy, we've invested in several different approaches, knowing that it might take a combination of treatments to really see the results that we all are hoping for our children. So we started with the GSK3 small molecule, which you'll hear from Dr. Jacob later today. This inhibits, if you think about the protein all of our children are lacking, your body is regularly degrading it. And she will explain it much more scientifically, but we're trying to reduce the rate at which the protein is being degraded so that our kids can have a normal rate, a normal level, of that protein. We've also invested in an mRNA booster. So this is targeting the RNA, so it's in between the protein and the DNA, trying to really upregulate, and you can see it not only upregulates the protein, but also the pathway, which is showing that the function is improved as well. And then knowing that not all our children can wait for these really fancy direct approach treatments, we've also invested in a drug repurposing project to look at what already approved drugs are out there that might for some reason hit our pathway and upregulate the protein that our kids are lacking. So here's all of that on one page. Feel free to scan the QR code. It goes to our website where you can learn more. I know I kind of breezed through all of that. And then, as Spila said, it takes an army, right? So I wanted to highlight a lot of the connections that turn into valuable partners for each of these initiatives. And then the map again. So here is CTNB1 Connect and Cure. There are now 7 CTNB1 organizations around the world. We've established connections with professionals, even broader. Here's a representation of the families that we know who have connected. And then if you look at the data, there are over 200,000 individuals living with CTNB1 syndrome who have not been diagnosed yet. So think about what that would look like on a map. Okay, so I said I have a charge for individuals and organizations. But first, I just want to give an example to show the potential of what your connections can do. So there is a mom who is a CTNB1 mom who is speaking to her friend about these symptoms, and oh my gosh, my child's dystonia is just getting worse and worse. Her friend saw an article about dystonia, sent it to the mom sent it to our organization. Oh, I'm supposed to be clicking. There we go. The mom sent it to our organization. We reached out to the researcher who already had funding for this study for dystonia. Guess what? He agreed to include our disease in his study. And that gave us a biomarker for CTNB1 syndrome. No money from the families, no money from the organizations, a connection. So my charge for individuals in this room and online, families, look for opportunities to create connections. Does your child endocrinologist do research? Connect them with one of us. Does your best friend's cousin have CP without a genetic diagnosis? Talk about genetic testing. That could be its own talk. And then share your story. You never know what doors it's going to open. For the professionals in the room, I wish I had name tags so I know who you are, color-coded. Talk about the unexpected findings. Publications are so important, but talk about the things in between the publications. Talk about the bad results, because we learn from those too. Ask questions and bring CTNMB1 into broader arenas. Think about cerebral palsy. Think about the Wnt signaling pathway. Think about any connection where you can bring connections into what we're already doing. Be intentional. It does take intention to connect. You have to reach outside of yourself, right? So just think about that when you're interacting. And then for us organizations, ours included, we really have to vow to keep families first, always. They're the reason we do everything we do, and that needs to be in the front every single time. Avoid duplicating efforts. Fill in each other's gaps. We're all raising money for these things. We don't need to be duplicating efforts. And then actively seek opportunities to collaborate. So I'm really, really excited that we're gonna be starting the clinical guidelines project together. And then we are also actively working to help Spila bring the clinical trial to the US. All right, so connection is power, knowledge is power, and connection is power. So think back to the neuronal network. Every single person in this room is a neuron, but we don't make an impact unless we're connected. So please branch out, connect, fire your neurons to everyone you can, because that's what drives progress and accelerates what we're all trying to do. And parents, if you need any sort of courage to step outside of yourself, look at your beautiful little dragonfly. Thank you so much.